Hey there, and welcome to U Talk. We connect with extraordinary people across Canada and ask them about their stories, passions, and experiences. I'm your host, Ryan Funk. On February 3rd, Winnipeg had a special guest, the Ambassador of Sweden. The Swedish Cultural Association Manitoba invited the ambassador to cruise the river on Kicksleds and talk about different aspects of Sweden and Canada. I met up with Sonja Lundstrom, president of the Swedish Cultural Association, and Anders Swanson from Winnipeg Trails talk about the highlights of the visit. They also share what Canada can learn from Nordic countries, how to enjoy the wonders of winter, and how to better connect to the lands.
Okay, getting to that, they all have Kicksleds. Everybody's got a Kicksled.
You're from Jokkmokk, Sonja?
I am.
Your family? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, what Jokkmokk's up there. Totally, yeah.
These old people, they gotta have their Kicksled. Did you meet some of the people inside that have lived all their life on Kicksleds from Sweden, Anders?
Yeah, I met a bunch of people inside. By that point, everybody was talking about the pickerel, but yeah. But no, I didn't get a chance to talk about that. I did hear the ambassador talk about it though, and he knew what he was talking about for sure.
Yeah, no, I had an opportunity to chat with him, and he was talking a little bit about, how they clear the road so that they can go in, and they stopped using salt, and then they just started using Kicksleds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really knew about that connection between infrastructure maintenance and technology and sort of this whole return to more, let's say, sensitive ways of treating snow, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, I love that. I saw there. Oh, I
Yeah.
wish they'd do it here.
Yeah, sometimes you just go out and there's just salt and sand everywhere, and it just gets so annoying. And specifically for pets, if you're bringing a pet outside, some of that sand or salt can be very dangerous for their paws. It can cause burns on them.
It was really neat because an ambassador, he's a politician. I don't know what his sphere is, but just kind of to have that kind of knowledge when you're the ambassador, you might as well. I don't know what he could be in the Treasury Board. He could be whatever. He just happens to know that very specific linkage.
Yeah, I mean, maybe his family or himself were city civics kind of thing.
I think you really notice when he was mentioning, because he was saying how he's in Ottawa, right, and all the pavement is black, and it's a weird thing in the winter to see that for sure. It's how this shouldn't be, because it's cold in Ottawa. It's not on the coast.
What did you think of him, Anders, of Urban?
He's a champ. He did not want to do it, so that was good. We hauled out those Kicksleds, and he didn't want to just hide in the forks. He wanted to go and do it, and he wanted to go check out the river. Whenever you're hosting somebody and they're game to try it, it's always it's really nice, because unfortunately they're doing construction on the underside of the Main Street Bridge. But I like taking people there because when you're on the ice and looking up from that bridge, it's like this Batman cathedral, and it's just a perspective of the city that you never see unless you're there specifically on the ice, and it just looks like a Tolkien kind of castle. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I wanted to take them there and for a picture, but it was all covered in an orange tarp.
Did anybody get a picture of Luca Ronceroni's showers? Pink shower?
kind of. So I know the people, a lot of people who do the maintenance at the Forks, and two of them were in a truck carrying one of them, and they stopped and they saw the flags, and they're like, "Oh, Anders, are you doing stuff with is that the ambassador?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, you guys are probably looking for these, right?" I was like, "Yeah, kind of." They're like, "Yeah, we're just moving these. They'll be there in 5 minutes." I was like, whatever.
So you didn't get a picture? You didn't get a picture?
I could have got a picture of him beside one on a big bobcat, but it wouldn't be the same.
Would have been the same, yeah. So I guess just for both of you, what was that experience meeting up with the ambassador from Sweden? And I mean, some of the ambassadors from the other Nordic countries have come out as well.
Well, for me, it's just very exciting that the ambassador, this hasn't happened for a long time, has taken the time to come and connect with the big Scandinavian population in this city. And that really fuels our fire to keep our culture and our heritage going. It puts fuel in our tank. But also, we're very excited to be open and learning, and that we can be the mode of communication of some of the initiatives that the Scandinavian countries, and how we can learn from them, and they can learn from us. and really, because as immigrants, our Scandinavian people accomplished a lot here, and that can go with exchange, can go back and forth, and we're enriching all society, I hope, as people and as our environment. And there's just so much to learn, and any way we can do it together, all the better. Anyway, see, I can get going here. But anytime you meet people with ideas, you can enrich whatever you're doing, individually, collectively, as a community, however we can do it. We can do it, we can write about it, we can have individual exchanges.
What about you, Anders?
For the last 15 years or so, I've been kind of dedicating myself to two things, and that is bringing international best practices in active transportation design to Canada as a whole and to Winnipeg specifically, and also with a specialty in winter. So I've, met with different MPs and sort of national level politicians from Nordic countries before in the past, and been sort of paying attention to what's going on there, because they're often a glimpse at the near future for Canada. I've traveled to a few places specifically to learn about how they design cities. And so for me, it's, in the case of, this gentleman as a person, it was just nice to have somebody from Sweden who you could talk to about policy a little bit and show them a bit around your hometown, and who understood likely. And I wasn't let down in that sense. And I think for Winnipeg Trails' Plain Bicycle project, what we're getting known for is for like seeking out sort of the best in personal transportation that's human powered, and then bringing it bringing ridiculous amounts of it here all at once in order to try to do something like that people start talking about. And the Kicksleds part, we made a pretty big effort this winter to bring a ton of them. Only half successful thus far, but that's a long story. Specifically the ones from Sweden that are who knows where because they were in an accident. But anyway, and so it was great to have a chance to focus specifically on this. And I really liked being able to hear, first of all, sort of see the excitement on Sonja and her colleagues, especially the ones who are aware of how well those are used and recognize them as an object, like, because they're like a cultural artifact. Like it's, it would be like, tasting maple syrup after 2 years of being in Mexico, or, getting on hockey skates after a long, like seeing Kicksleds is like, it's synonymous with a certain lifestyle and a certain way of understanding and living with nature.
Oh, Anders, that's so beautiful what you said.
Oh, that's what they pay me the big money for, Sonja.
Yours
is good too.
What can you tell me more about these Kicksleds, Sonja? Like, they seemed so cool when I was watching and filming them going down the river.
I haven't had that much personal experience other than the homemade ones, because that's what I've lived on all my life, but they've just been a part of our life. And now I see these modern ones, and I want to get one. So I just think it's wonderful. And when I was in Sweden, I was just so impressed with them. And I know they've been around for a while, but I think more than ever that it can be something that we could look forward to using. I would like to see, well, it's going to be a challenge when I get mine. Well, the streets are pretty good now, but I don't want to have to do it on concrete.
Do you think we can get this more, like, grow that interest here in Winnipeg? Because it just seems like something that would be great for like rentals and just getting people in the community to go down their streets when they're like going for a walk or something, getting people engaged.
Well, I don't know where to start. I just know how it was in Sweden, and it was so great. And I'm going to try and make it like that here. There is the rivers, and you can go on them there, and there's the trails that I've been sizing up trails where I'm going to be going. But I want to be at kind of my day-to-day living as a place to commute, to visit friends, to go throughout the community, so I don't have to take a car and do my grocery shopping and things like that. And little trips. It becomes my active transportation. In the summer, it's my bicycle, and I just want this now.
Sonja is going to be is sort of one of our testers and one of our big boosters for us bringing these in. And I'm actually curious, Sonja, for you to try the Finnish one, the ones from Quebec, and the ones from Sweden if they get here, just to see. They're a little bit different, but you're definitely right that a lot of it has to do with, there's a reciprocal relationship between having these in the city and how we maintain our sidewalks and roads. We have this kind of mentality. It's interesting that we've got a writer here who's, that we're talking to, but because Ryan, you might be interested to watch your own writing around winter and this kind of thing, just to look for some cue words. Like I've been noticing this winter that as soon as we get lots of snow, like the battle language comes out. Mm-hmm. Like people start talking about like fighting the winter and against it, and the crews are battling as hard as they can and this kind of thing. And the end result is like scraping the road down to like scraping the living hell out of the roads to try and get down to the black asphalt that's underneath there. Mm-hmm. We're not focused on leaving a nice flat surface for pedestrians, for example, first. Like we're really just trying to make the cars work and make the other machines be able to go as quickly as they can. And that doesn't work very well for kick sledding. And it's when you think that way, that's when you start to have to dump the like mountains of salt that Urban was talking about. Like I said, he's the ambassador to Canada. It's not his thing to know about salt, I don't think, and municipal sidewalk clearing. But he's absolutely right. Like, you need to treat snow as a kind of building material as soon as it sticks around. Like sort of mid-December, like if you can get it to stick around and you can start playing with that snow and building your city around it, it becomes a lot easier just to walk.
Oh, I love that, Anders.
Yeah, I think that's just the struggle out here, like North America. We have this mentality of controlling the nature in our environments, but we need to live more apart. And
living with nature, with a part of it, being in it,
That's very true, Sonja. That's really that's totally what it is. But when life is art, then you even your door handles become a nicer shape, and you're like there's something.
I know.
It's hard to.
I get so excited
about IKEA, but what they don't realize about IKEA is that it comes from a really human scale. Not that IKEA itself is like that, but like long-term quality manufacturing, like right-sized fit thing that's going on there that's really hard to kind of describe. Like the fact that you can go for a sauna and it makes sense for you to be naked in the front yard in your suburban house. It's different.
What are some other aspects of kind of these Nordic cultures and countries do you think we can apply to our life here in Canada, or at least approach or think about it and maybe adapt it to our life here?
It's in our blood to have this passion about being in nature. Okay, and like I think the fact that we're out there today on the coldest day of the year and got all wired up and fired up and had such a good time, that says who we are and what we're about, and that we have this passion, and it's a connection. Or I have that. Like, geez, I better be careful of generalizing, but I just love every winter's never lasts long enough. It's just, and our passion goes right through to the summer. Like, okay, we go mushroom picking. We go, and we never get a mushroom. We've had such a good time because it's a certain kind of bush that we have the memory of. To be in that bush and the smells and the everything about that bush where the mushrooms are.
That love for life and that love for nature, that's definitely something that we can all kind of take into account and apply to our own lives. Like, there's so many times where you go to Birds Hill or go for a hike somewhere, you just feel like a tourist. Like you're a tourist in that forest. You're not a part of it. You're not enjoying it. It's not your forest.
Oh yeah. Well, they call it forest bathing, right? I've heard that word. I've been doing it all my life.
Well, there's definitely some big social things as well, that social and political things that are wrapped up in it. Like, you'll notice that the ambassador talked about, I think the word he used was feministic approaches to some policies around snow clearing. That's absolutely true, and it comes from gender-based budget analysis. But the other thing that Nordic countries and well, maybe not exactly Winnipeg, but 100 kilometers east of here have in common, and a lot of Canada has in common, is that we're people of the forest, and the Nordic countries sort of spent a long time developing cultures around being in a forest and in a winter forest specifically. And so we have a lot to learn in terms of everything from, crafting cross-country skis to sort of how we spend some time outside. But I think we also need to remember that Canada is also reeling from a relatively recent history of colonialism, specifically English colonialism, and that where the Nordic people were involved, but also sitting outside of that, at least the ones in Canada, where we were for sure part of it and living on stolen land, etc., and with a really complicated relationship with the Indigenous people. But that it's a little bit different than the Cartesian, mowed front lawn, grass, English, no insulation and keeping the doors open, drafty kind of stiff upper lip rules and regulations society that led to a lot of the choices that we make. And like when you're asking like what should the Nordic countries, what should we learn from them? Well, there's a lot of things, but gender equality is one. Like a long time ago, it was made illegal, for example, to advertise things specifically to boys and specifically to girls. There's a lot more gender parity in Parliament there, in decision-making in general, like parental leave is longer. A lot of interesting stuff comes from those countries that we need to bring here, but it comes, I think, in part from a certain level of compassion for other members of society, and that I personally think that we're struggling a bit with colonialism in our past and how we treated other people and how we treated the land. Because I'll leave with one last thing. So the Sami, for example, are in northern Sweden and northern Finland, et cetera. They're right now going through their own form of reconciliation.
Yeah.
So Europe's only indigenous people happens to be in the northern countries as well. Just pointing out that when Swedish people and Finnish people are walking around in the woods, they're using language for the thing that is beneath their feet that they know. They know where the word comes from. They know what it means. They know what the thing is. When you're a tourist, as you put it, in Birds Hill Park, it's largely because nobody bothered to learn Ojibwe or Cree.
Okay, but another thing, I have to say this. Okay, there's the cognitive convention, but there's the emotional and maybe spiritual connection. Like when you get we Swedes all go together to pick the mushrooms, and we just have such a joyous time because there's something in us that we connect with the smells and the feeling and everything that's there in nature. And I don't know how to explain it, but we just really have it heavy. And that's why we like to do it together, because we got the same feelings.
Yeah, so there's a lot we can learn from the Swedish people, and a lot we can learn from our own Indigenous people here in Canada to find this connection to the land that most of us do not have.
Yeah, for sure. I like, we had somebody came into the Plain Bicycle train car the other day, and she mentioned, being from a big, well-known Indigenous family here. And anyways, but she had said she walked into a place that she felt like was one of the rare places that embodied how it should be to live here, is my paraphrasing. Anyways, and I was really honored by that, because for us as an organization like Winnipeg Trails Association, essentially what we're doing is we're giving a lot of thought to the very first time we put a shovel into the ground. and or we take a step forward. We give a lot of thought to that little act, and to making sure we're moving in the good way, going in the right way, and how to make it last forever. And there's certain paradigms which we, like there's always going to be, the biggest path is going to be along the river. There's always going to be a ski is going to be the better thing to use in February than a bicycle, even if you can use both. And then you need to kind of decide, you make conscious decisions. What are we going to support and what are we going to not support? I just keep coming back to the fact that like this place was built on people who traveled back and forth from Sault Ste. Marie every year to go get sugar. 300 years of that was going on before, a single Manitoba premier was ever established or elected, and before the first highway was built. And yet somehow we can't keep our sidewalks clear. And somehow we think it's ridiculous that we would be able to ski to the grocery store. The Nordic countries figured that out a long time ago and are actually doing it. So for me, it's like a big you to everybody who thinks that like winter's a thing that you have to struggle with and go to Arizona to avoid. It's like, you might as well not be from here anymore if you can't connect to all 4 seasons. And I get, wanting to stay warm, but that's what a sauna is for. I love the idea of exploring, but I think we need to explore within first, because there's just such beauty out there, and it's amazing how few people like know that.
I like to think that COVID is a wonderful. I'm happy as a clown here in COVID. I can't stand shopping anyway. Oh my God. And then this year we got all this wonderful snow. I mean, I'm all constantly amazed at how people's attitude.
Well, hopefully we can continue to have conversations and, help inform public opinion on these things. And, maybe the future will be brighter when all of us are more deeply connected to our environment and our home.
I think it already is. I think we learned our lesson.
My grandkids love being in nature.
If you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.